What's up, you cool cats and kittens? Christopher Alexander Robert Clark-Youngblood here. I'm pulling out of a gas station right near El Tejon Ranch, California. I think I'm like 30 minutes south of Bakersfield. So kind of central California, headed up to Paso Robles, or as JoJo calls it, Pablo Robles. JoJo's on spring break, so the family is headed to Paso Robles for a few days for vacation, and then so I'm gonna head up there to meet them, hang out. I've never been up to that part of the state, specifically like Central California wine country. I think it's kind of like, I think Napa's farther north. I don't know, California's so big. Hang out with them, and then they are on Thursday flying to Portland, where Lucas is from. And not only where Lucas is from, where we are moving. It's kind of something I've been teasing over the last couple weeks on the podcast, some big life news. I think, yeah, well, I know it's open now amongst all of the friends and people in LA, and JoJo and Emily know, so I feel comfortable discussing it on the podcast. It's there's one person who doesn't know, and I think I'm gonna get into that in a second. Yeah, it's tough, but it's cool. It's not tough. Like, change is tough, but change is also cool. It makes life exciting. I don't want to move to Portland. I don't want to live in the Pacific Northwest. I don't want to live where it's cold and rainy. I love Southern California. I love the sun. But I love JoJo and Emmeline more, and this little family that we've built, more than Southern California. So, yeah, I have every intention of going to Portland. I don't know how it's gonna work out. When I'm there, the living situation is gonna be different. In California, everyone has, or at least in LA, it seems like in the desert, in Phoenix it was the same way. Everyone has guest houses. So I have a guest house, I have my own little space, and I like having a tiny little house in my, you know, keeps me minimalistic and keeps me like focused and uncluttered. I do not like having such a tiny space that I would be living in one room in someone else's house. You know, we joke that I'm like the little brother, that I'm like Lucas and Sue's little brother, and you know, the uncle. JoJo and Amy's uncle, basically, and man, I love those girls so much, and like, it feels like a journey. It is a journey we're all on together, and they may have a third kid, which would be another amazing part of the journey, chapter to the journey. I love my quote-unquote job. I don't feel like I have a job. It's I love my current lifestyle. But also at some point I am going to need to move on. So I don't know, it's we'll see what happens, but I have every intention of going with them to Portland. Supposedly, allegedly, or the plan at least right now is it should just be 2 to 3 years in Portland. And they're not selling the house in LA. And you know, very, very, very potentially, if not probably, we could move back in short order. At that point, though, you know, I'm a 40-year-old man. But if they had a third baby, and I would be fine sticking around for that. Financially, it works, and so yeah. It's like, I'm cool with it. Like, I'm cool with change. I see, at this point, this is like a month hitherto it's been kind of, we've kind of known it was going this way. I'm totally cool with change. I totally see the value in change in a new place and living in the Pacific Northwest. Actually, I was born in the Southeast, raised in the Southeast. I moved to Phoenix, the Southwest. I lived in DC, which is basically Northeast, and spent a lot of time with friends in New York and stuff like that. So I know that part of the country a little bit. I don't know the Pacific Northwest very much. My uncle lived in Seattle for a good bit of time. I visited there twice. I visited Lucas and his family in Portland after I left Phoenix. That was now 12 years ago. That's crazy to say. Our Lord and Savior head coach Mike McDonald obviously is the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. I flew up there for a game the other day. I'm not down with the cold and the rain, but it's cool. It's cool. It's a totally different part of the country. It's totally different geography and climate. Not totally, but it's a different geography and climate than the Southwest. It's very rainy and lots of cool, lots of trees, and fortunately a ton of awesome nature to discover. I highly doubt, I would be shocked if I had any intention of living up there full time, like permanently. I think it's much more likely I live in Southern California or Central California, somewhere in California, long term, in terms of like investing in property and shit like that. But who knows? It's I don't know. So I'm down with it. The living situation is gonna be a major issue. Like if I don't have I have my own space, and I feel there's no separation there's already no separation between my work and home, and I live with the people and children I work with. Like my work and my professional and personal life are kind of the same thing. And not to mention, like, I'm a grown man, you need space. I smoke weed. I smoke a lot of weed. I mean, that's just the beginning of my personal activities I would like to have space for. I'm not saying like they're all vices or anything, but I fucking do a lot of exercise. I do a fuck ton of yoga. I need, it's it already feels very cramped in the current situation with the girls, especially the bigger they get and the more interactive they are and smart they are and conversations they want to have. It already feels like at its limit of what I can kind of tolerate right now, as far as how much separation I have from like in my personal space. I love spending time with the girls. I love having them around, but like this amount of separation I have currently is about my limit. So we'll see, man. Hopefully we can work it out, find a living space that works. They're going up to Portland, as I said, at the end of this week to find houses, or find a house and look at houses. And so we'll see what happens in the winter is the big thing. It's kind of feel like I definitely make it through the fall into the winter. We'll see how cold and rainy the winter is and everything. So here's the other complicating factor, though, and this is the how do I put this? I've also met a girl recently. As all this was happening, I've also met a girl who I really like, and it seems like there's some legitimate potential there. And the way the whole situation unfolded, I don't want to get into the full story of it right now. Hopefully, certainly I'd like to get in the full story of meeting her and everything down the road. So I'm trying to keep it very succinct. It's a little bit of a complicated situation, but the individual, she seems like an awesome person. It's been like a month, so it hasn't, where there's a lot to uncover here. So but all this is happening. I met this girl and started hanging out with her at the exact same time all this started happening. And I have not discussed this with her yet. I don't know if she listens to this. If you do, I have not been sure how to tell you. My intention has been to tell you, but everything is very much in flux, and everything is developing day by day with this situation, and so yeah. we will have this conversation. But I think the long and short of it is I'm fully confident that everything's going to work out. I don't feel stressed at all about this situation. Oh, cop here? I don't think so. No. A little stressed, I should say, but much less stressed than I would have at other periods of my life in the past. And I was just before I hopped in the car, I just did my normal. It's Monday, March 24th, 2025, 4 p.m. California time. I just did my normal training, no-gi Muay Thai gi, at my Legacy in Burbank. And after I spoke with the owner of the gym, Alberto Crane, our master sensei, professor, and we were just talking about life and really kind of the nature of existence and like quantum physics, so from what very little we know about it, and just like kind of the nature of reality a little bit. But then he was talking about this whole, he knows about the Portland move, and he was saying like, you know, decisions could be like this, could be tough, and I was saying absolutely. In the past, indecision, man. I've talked about this in the podcast in the past, but I've struggled with obsessive compulsive disorder throughout my life, and in my adult life, that obsessive compulsive disorder has manifested itself in the best way as I can say. It's like obsession with indecision about what deep. I don't even want to go into this. I've said this so much on the podcast or to different people, but just major decisions about shit as little as like what I'm gonna eat for lunch, you know, or what kind of exercise I'm gonna do that day. My brain would just like lock up, and I would just constantly debate the back and forth, the pros and cons of any decisions, let alone like major life decisions. But I don't feel that at all right now, you know. It's just about communication with those involved, which admittedly there's one major player that has emerged in this discussion that I haven't fully communicated with, and that's my fault. Everything has kind of just been developing day by day and kind of in a rapid succession. Then this new relationship is, as well, is looking like all of a sudden it's like gonna be something that's gonna require some time and energy, or I would like to kind of cultivate. But I was talking to Alberto about, you know, managing anxiety and decision making. And dude, it's jiu-jitsu helps with that shit so much, man. It's like all the principles of the shit you do in martial arts, particularly in jiu-jitsu, you can apply to life in general. It's like in jiu-jitsu, you have a plan going in, but you know it's not gonna, it's just like accepted that it's not gonna go completely according to plan. In which case, the key to success is just staying calm, breathing, reassessing the situation, changing your plan, always being flexible, maintaining like a calm mind, a positive mindset, and like winning mentality. But respect for your opponent and like the situation, and just be cool and breathe and like maintain good cardio and good heart rate. That's like in the microcosm of jiu-jitsu. Those same principles can be applied to life in general with something you're struggling with, right? Jiu-jitsu, it's an opponent you're struggling with, but just like in life, your opponent is actually helping you. You're struggling against them, you want to beat them, but it's also if you quote unquote lose, then you still learn actually even more. So like if you make the wrong decision, quote unquote, you can learn even more in life. And your opponent in life, quote unquote, is just like the circumstance, you know, the decision to be made, the anxiety to manage, and just stay calm, you breathe, find a new technique, find a new strategy, find a new route, stay flexible. GoPro's getting too hot. I apologize. Let's get back on the phone. Just as a backup, I've got the phone here as a backup. I've got the GoPro. Trying to keep this my main thing. So let's just find a spot for this GoPro as we're driving at 85 miles an hour down the road. I think I got us. Yeah, okay, we're back. So yeah, when I was talking about using jiu-jitsu and martial arts as a vehicle for life and learning about life and applying the same principles there as you can in life in general. I think I'm moving that camera setup. Sorry, I'm thinking the camera setup now. So yeah, that's what's going on. They plan to move at the end of the school year. Let's call it like early July, or after the end of the school year. So it is now, let's just say we're April 1, although we're in the last week of March here. We're coming up on the last week of March, so let's just call it April, May, June. April, May, June, man. 3 more months in LA. And I know I've been kind of like talking slow and very deliberately because it's emotional. Alright, sorry about that. GoPro got too hot. I've had it like on a tripod in the dashboard. Here's the latest update on my like camera equipment struggles. I don't want to call them struggles. You know, the technical aspects of doing this podcast, especially now with video. I bought a like dashboard suction cup GoPro mount. Dude, for the life of me, I could not figure out how to set it up. And it was right after training, and I was trying to get on the road from the gym, and so then I just put it on my like cell phone tripod, which hopefully the first part of this video recorded. I had it set up on the dashboard on just like a cell phone tripod, and it got hot as fuck. Now I'm just holding the cell phone tripod, which I'm cool, I'm safely driving with. I'm driving with one hand holding it. It feels fine. So hopefully that works out. Where the fuck were we? Okay, so I was talking about, and hopefully this got recorded, just how you can apply the principles of martial arts and to life in general. And I was talking to Alberto about that after the gym today with relation to this decision, or moving to Portland as like an unexpected aspect of life and changing your plan and staying calm, and just the same principles that you apply to be successful in jiu-jitsu and in martial arts you can apply. You take off the mat and apply to life. It sounds so like cliche and martial arty and Bruce Lee and all that shit. Dude, it's fucking true. And it's so much fun and good for you, and the confidence it builds, man. And like, and I want to get into more just about like self-reliance and self-confidence, and how like the ability to confidently defend yourself, I think how that can affect your decision making and outlook on life, and what you're willing to tolerate. Not that you ever need to use it, but just from a principle standpoint, it really does kind of solidify you as an individual and a human being, strengthens your character, and I really think changes your principles into a more like positive, stronger, more resilient version of yourself. It's a vehicle. I know Rogan says this all the time, but it's a vehicle for like maximizing your human potential. And just as I was discussing, hopefully in the first part of this video got recorded, like you can apply those same principles in all areas of life, like everything, your relationships, platonic, romantic, everything, decision making, your job. And so it's such a struggle, and it's such an intense it's like such an intense, highly focused struggle in jiu-jitsu. It's like hyper concentrated intensity and stress that when applied to the rest of life, when you're not actually like being strangled or fighting for like your limbs being literally snapped off and like life-altering surgery potentially, it's you then step off and everything else just seems like so much less of a big deal. So yeah, we'll figure it out. And that's what I want to say. I'm going to say, and if you're listening to this, new person I'm seeing, and it's a very new relationship, or any relationship I have with anyone, romantic or otherwise, in the future, like it's cool. We're gonna figure it out. If like love is there, if its true bond is there, and the same goes to Jojo and Emmeline. If I don't end up staying in Portland the entire length of the time they're there, like we're gonna figure our relationship out. We're gonna we love each other deeply, and we're gonna figure it out. We're not gonna lose each other or give up on the bond we have together. If I stayed in LA or moved out of Portland, I would make a concerted effort with Jojo and Emmeline, because they're a priority of my life, part of who I am, part of my heart. to go see them and be a part of life as consistently as I am in my own nieces and nephews' life. You know, that's just part of my broader family now, and that's awesome. So yeah, that's what's going on. So the plan over the next 3 months, personally, is just maintain the same training, focus on that more than anything. Going to Portland, you know, I am exploring, not in any sort of permanent committal way. I am exploring other options as far as just like getting my teaching certifications and shit back in order, especially in California where there's a lot of regulation. I don't particularly want to get back into the formal education system, because this is something, perhaps if I, an hour and 43 minutes here, maybe if I can maintain holding this GoPro and like my focus and energy level, I want to get in, if not on this episode, next episode, or in future episodes very soon, about just like the structures of society as we know it, particularly like political and like institutional structures, the education system being one of them. They're falling down. They're changing. Let's not call them falling down, because that sounds negative. They're changing. Things are changing. I'm fairly confident things are changing in what can best be described as like a libertarian way. These traditional institutions and structures, government, let's say, in short, institutions more broadly, a lot of them are a facade and bullshit, man, and they are injecting themselves into the roles of individuals' lives in a way that is well-intentioned but ultimately harmful, and in some ways not even well-intentioned. In some ways, I believe, not maleficent but very self-serving, masqueraded as well-intentioned. In short order, I want to get back to where the fuck I was talking about before. Hey, what the fuck, GoPro? So this is now the second time it's cut off. This is going to be a third video that we have to, I guess, put together on iMovie. GoPro, what the fuck, man? Got too hot again? Come on, bruh. I'm trying to now position it out of the sun, just in like a fucking cup holder here. Hopefully you can see me. Yo, cell phone might just be the way to go, man. I was trying to get fancy with this GoPro. The video quality is better, but goddamn, this bitch gets hot quick. I got my fucking shitty ass cell phone up here, baking in the sun, no issues. And I was cooking too, bro. I was about to start cooking. I was going from talking about potentially getting back in the teaching game, if long-term things will work out in the Portland, to transitioning that to a discussion about institutions kind of changing and evolving around us. Fucking GoPro goes out. So what I was saying was, I'm hesitant to get back into teaching because I feel like I had a badass shroom trip yesterday, and I feel like the institutions around us, son of a fucking bitch, are changing. I don't follow like closely what the fuck is going on in modern politics. I know Donald Trump is president. I know Elon Musk is in there kind of cleaning shit out, and I guess from their point of view, like going through the federal government and like cutting out all the bullshit. Once again, I've not done any research. This is all word of mouth shit I've heard. My entire like means by which I follow the news right now is I went back and started listening to all the Joe Rogan episodes from the beginning, which is like 2009, 2010, selectively. Fucking scientists, definitely anything about UFOs, anything about like Younger Dryas theory, the shit about with like intellectuals, certain comedians, anything to do with UFC. And so I've been like tracking the past 15 years of existence through Joe Rogan. And I don't follow any news or anything else other than that, other than sports. And I'm 2 weeks behind the sports news cycle, so it's even like, it's fucking UFC 313, which was March 8th for me in the sports world. So I don't even know what's going on in the sports. I'm 2 weeks behind like the sports world, and I'm 2 years behind modern like politics and shit. Right now, what I'm listening to with Rogan is like summer, August, September 2023. So the Biden administration is wrapping up. The war in Ukraine is going hard. And that's an example I want to give, is like, institutions, government, a lot of times they're just well-intentioned. And I think a lot of well-intentioned government inventions, something like welfare, for instance, is like a well-intentioned aspect of government that has like long-term bad implications, right? You kind of get at people addicted to free money. And I've been a victim of that myself. I won't get into details, but I have myself been victim of that. And not just with government, from this, the same principle applies to like inheriting money. You know, I inherited, my grandpa died like $40,000. I used like half of that to pay for student debt. And then I just like disappeared in the fucking jungle of Latin America, you know, for a year, which I guess is great. And I hope my grandpa's cool with that's how I use the money, but also like in a way it like delayed my development. You know, you can make the argument that it stunted my growth. You can make the argument. Anyway, welfare, well-intentioned effort that ultimately has long-term bad consequences. Although certain particularly conspiratorial-minded individuals might argue that welfare actually, you know, with all of these things, I suppose you could make some sort of deep conspiratorial argument that it's like the intention is to like enslave the populace, right? Ukraine, fucking A, dude, like allegedly well-intentioned to help this sovereign nation prevent invasion by another giant sovereign nation. But the fucking irony of the United States being invested in preventing a like superpower, and Russia's not even the superpower nearly on the level of the United States, from invading a sovereign nation is fucking laughable, given the fact that we do that all the goddamn time. Dude, what that shit is, dude, the amount of money that like I'm like, as I'm catching up, the world in Ukraine in 2023, and as I'm listening to Rogan, dude, GoPro, no bueno. What is this, fucking take 3, 4? This thing gets hot so fast, not even in the sun anymore. I have like down in my fucking cup holder in the shadows. It's 83 degrees outside. I'm not fucking Sahara Desert. What is happening? Isn't this supposed to be like a fucking adventure camera? It can't take the heat in an air-conditioned car in 80-degree weather. What the fuck is this thing, man? Damn, that's super disappointing. I'm just gonna go cell phone from here on out. Fuck this thing. Damn. Sorry about that negative outburst, ladies and gentlemen. What the fuck is that time? I'm trying to fucking solve world politics over here. Ukraine, man, it's the military fucking industrial complex. It's the military fucking industrial complex. These are just arenas for these massive arm industries. Raytheon, Boeing, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, these massive companies. These are some of the biggest corporations in America who are deeply tied into government. They fund the political campaigns of these politicians. This is the politicians paying them back. They're all in fucking bed together. The government and the corporation, the U.S. federal government and corporations are too deeply in bed together. They are fucking each other. And it is this deeply incestuous relationship that ultimately prevents the government is no longer beholden to the citizenry. The government is beholden to corporations. And it's only beholden to citizenry in like these like very like ham-fisted, like public outcry, emotional ways, right? And so what it just something like the war in Ukraine is just an arena for the defense industry to get billions and billions and billions of dollars, to make billions and billions and billions of dollars blowing shit up and then rebuilding it. The same people are blowing the shit up are rebuilding it. It's a fucking racket. War is a fucking racket where corporations essentially are bribing the government to use sovereign nation military to invade other sovereign nations, obliterate them, and then rebuild them. And it's all being paid for by stolen money from the taxpayer. It's absolute fucking horseshit. It's not about saving the people of Ukraine. It's about instigating a conflict in Ukraine by encroaching closer and closer to Russia's border with nuclear weapons, which is what NATO, led by the United States, is doing. NATO, led by the United States, is encroaching closer and closer to Russia's border with its influence, and particularly with nuclear arsenals. So Russia's responding. I'm like, yay, back the fuck off. Just like we would if fucking Russia was encroaching through Canada or through Mexico and placing nuclear weapons there. Just like fucking happened in the Cuban Missile Crisis. We almost blew up the fucking world and went into an international nuclear conflagration because Russia was putting nukes in fucking Cuba. We're doing the same thing in Ukraine and that area of the world. So Russia's responding. I'm not saying that like Russia's the good guy in this situation, but they're fucking rational actors. The fuck do you want them to, like, what do you, we would do the same shit. Dude, we invaded Iraq by lying, by just making up a story about there being nuclear weapons there. There were no weapons of mass destruction. Talk about the government and the media being in bed. All these industries are in bed together with the government. Corporations, media corporations, arms corporations, weapons manufacturers, pharmaceutical companies, banks, they own the government. It's not our government, it's their government. So the government responds to what makes them fucking money. COVID, another example of the government lying and telling us, the government creates these fear. It creates fear, creates these problems, tells you that there's a boogeyman out there and that they are the only entity that can solve it. And it's fucking bullshit. They turn anthills into mountains, so they drastically exaggerate problems or create problems themselves, as in the case of the Ukraine, and then the government positions itself as the only actor to be able to solve the problem, thereby, like, it's this reinforcing cycle, and then they steal taxpayer money to solve the problem. So we're all kind of entrapped into the system of the government telling us what is a problem, and then telling us they're the only ones that can solve the problem. And then it's not like we have okay, yeah, we all get to choose like that you're the one that's going to solve the problem. They just take your money anyway in the form of income tax and sales tax, although sales tax is a little more voluntary than income tax, and then they just do whatever the fuck they want with it. They solve the problem that they created in some circumstances. Woo! This whole system is coming the fuck down. The system is coming down. And I'm on a real fucking tangent now, but I'll relate it back to martial arts, which was kind of specifically professional martial arts, the sport of martial arts, MMA, UFC, combat sports, in this sense. The UFC in Saudi Arabia are taking over boxing. I've been talking about this on past episodes. It is fucking happening. The only reason this hasn't happened in the past, the only reason there isn't like an NFL or a UFC or an NBA of boxing is because of the Ali Act, which was passed in 2000, the year 2000. It is a direct response to the 1996 Olympics in Atlanta when Muhammad Ali lit the torch of the games and was clearly suffering from Parkinson's disorder, and the world fucking freaked out and was like, how the fuck did this happen? He was a fucking professional boxer. That's how it happened. He got his brain beat in for a living. And so all of a sudden it was this big public outcry. In my personal opinion, none of the government, it's not the federal government's business to regulate sports and like individual human beings' sporting decisions. But that's what the government did in response to Muhammad Ali having Parkinson's disease. The federal government injected itself into professional boxing. And I don't know the details of the legislation, but long story short, it prevented like monopolistic ownership of a league. Not like I guess monopoly is kind of a subjective definition, but like the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, these are all quote-unquote monopolies, the UFC, but they're legal. But in boxing, for a reason, because Muhammad Ali has Parkinson's disease, it's not legal, right? It's, once again, the government taking a small problem, really just kind of a public outcry, emotional thing, and like way overreacting to it with stolen taxpayer money. And then the long-term effects is negative because boxing fucking blows. Now, like, there have to be all these different belts and these different divisions, and the government has to regulate everything, and it sucks. The best don't fight the best, and once again, I don't know, I'm not a boxing like regulatory expert, but the effect of the Muhammad Ali Act is that like boxing is very like divided, and there's all these like small sanctioning bodies and different belts and mandatory shit mandated by the government. Like, what the fuck what if the government regulated the NBA and like it said like which team can play which team and like how many what players can be on what teams? Like, what the fuck? Mind your goddamn business. It's like when the government got involved in steroids in baseball. It's like, what are you guys doing? This is The original founding of this country, the Constitution, Bill of Rights, all that shit, was essentially like we're transitioning from monarchy and like king and queen type fucking really tyrannical rule into this new experimental form of democracy and self-rule and respect for the individual and individual liberty and individuals, human beings' right to live their life in the way they want. And essentially the founding documents of the country, the Constitution, Bill of Rights, all this shit was basically just like rules about what the government can't do to you. And now it is totally transformed into the government just tells you what you can do. The entire conceit of the country was us, the people, telling the government what they cannot do to us. And it's now morphed in this situation where all the government does is tell you, the individual, what you can and cannot do. And that's fucking horseshit. And the corporations get to do whatever the fuck they want. And I'm not like anti-corporation, anti-capitalist. In fact, I think that is the solution. You just got to get rid of the government, and then we can just interact with the corporations directly without the government like stealing our money and telling us what to do. Huh. The UFC in Saudi Arabia, Turki al-Sheikh, who's like the head of the sports commission in Saudi Arabia, is like he's been trying to take over sports worldwide, basically, as a means of what's called like sports washing, if you want to look at it negatively. Like trying to inject Saudi Arabia into the Western world and international stage as like a participator in global politics. Given the fact that it was Saudi Arabia in kind of short story version that like orchestrated 9/11, it's very complex, right? Saudi Arabia is a theocratic, like tyrannical government, and you know they've had major fucking human rights issues and fucking chopping off journalists' heads and shit. So it's weird. But if you look at it just from a capitalist perspective, like it's badass that this guy's like, when he tried to step into golf and soccer, he was looked as like a disruptor and disrupting a system that everyone loved, but boxing fucking blows. And so this guy's come in with like essentially unlimited Saudi Arabian oil money, and he's just been like, fuck all the rules, I'm paying this guy outrageous amount. He's willing to take a bath, take a profit loss on all these shows and just pay the fucking money and put together these badass fights as a means of just like projecting Saudi Arabian influence worldwide. Which is fucking weird and creepy, but also badass because he's been making all these fights. Now he's getting into Dana White and being like, fuck the Ali Act, fuck the federal government's influence in boxing. I have so much fucking money and cultural influence and like positive public will that I'm just gonna say fuck to all these rules and we're gonna make a boxing league try and stop us. Now, Dana White, the head of the UFC, who's gonna be the CEO of this new boxing league, is real close with Trump. So they must know they have the votes or whatever, executive authority to basically tell, like, throw away the Ali Act or drastically amend it, which I'm all in favor for. I don't think the fucking federal government has any business interfering in professional boxing. Mind your goddamn business. And once again, I haven't been following what's going on in the news, but I know fucking Elon Musk and Trump and Doge, all this shit, like they're tearing down some fucking institutions, like tearing up USAID. I think they're going after the Department of Education now. And once again, man, I'm fucking for it. I'm for decentralization. I don't believe in this centralized monarch, like tyrannical authority. I believe that the individual should be respected, not fucking major institutions, corporations, or governmental institutions. The right of the individual to be respected. We can all determine the outcome of our own lives with our own families and our own communities. Decentralization, breaking down, taking this central authority and breaking it down and distributing power and sovereignty to the smallest unit possible, which is the individual. Instead of having the federal government, the U.S. Department of Education, which has nothing to do with fucking Los Angeles, California and Washington, D.C., telling us how we should educate our kids and how school systems should be run here. We as the parents and community in which the school is located should decide how the school is run. So I'm in support of this shit. And it's not, once again, it's perspective issue. People on the left are gonna look at this shit as like you hate children or education or fucking giving aid internationally. That's not the point, dude. The point is it's not fair to steal people's money and then tell other people what to do, or to engineer global, like international policy worldwide. That is not the goal of the federal government. Individuals can dedicate themselves to whatever they want to in their own individual lives, but you can't steal people's money en masse and centralize all of that power and influence in a central federal authority, and then just like engineer the life as we know it, existence as we know it, based on the will and influence of, at this point, mega corporations. It's fucking crazy. Give us our money back, leave us alone, and let us run our own lives. And it's happening. It's happening. I can feel it at like a core level. It's gonna be a little bit chaotic in the short run, but in the long run, it's for the best. It's for the, it's so that each individual human being can have the right to flourish and determine the outcome of their own lives to the greatest extent possible. No adult should be able to tell another adult what to do. Keep your hands to yourself. It's the rule of not, what is the principle of non-aggression or whatever, like respect other people's personal property and body. And then, you know, live your life how you want. You should be allowed to fucking do whatever drug you want, gamble, do whatever, destroy your life in whatever fucking way you want. The government, it's not the government's job to protect you from destroying one adult from destroying their own life, you know. You can't destroy someone else's life. There does need to be some sort of like law and order. I believe in law enforcement. I believe in judiciary. So these institutions are coming down, man, and what is happening in boxing is a microcosm of all of this. What the fuck does the government have anything to do with the UFC? The UFC itself is already too heavy fucking regulated by the government. And it's fucking it up because the government runs the referees, the government runs the rule sets, and so these rules can evolve. The government runs the judges. It's all appointed by state athletic commissions. What the fuck is the state government doing in determining the outcome of a fucking UFC fight? What the fuck? Let the UFC regulate itself, come up with its own judges, its own referees. It can modify its own rules. You can't evolve the rule set of the game. You can't evolve the scoring system. There's all kinds of issues with the scoring system in MMA and boxing. There's all kinds of issues with the rule set in MMA and boxing, particularly like things like eye pokes. And you can't evolve those things if the government is regulating it. They're totally untransparent. Whenever a referee makes a mistake or there's a fucking bizarre scorecard, you never know what the fuck happened. They never give a press conference. They don't speak to the media. The same fucking shitty judges who make outrageous, that are almost like blatantly corrupt decisions, are back for the next week's fights. It's fucking ridiculous. What the fuck is the government doing in combat sports? And so it's changing. Get the fucking government out of combat sports. Let's start there, and then let's start like peeling the government away from human life, like step by step. We can start with combat sports. Apparently let's start with fucking USAID and the Department of Education, so they're going for the big fucking fish. I say start at the state level with combat sports, because what's happening now is government and these institutions are being destroyed and disintegrating at the federal level, apparently. I can't wait to catch up on Rogan so I can learn all about this shit and be more informed on actually what the fuck is going on and start talking about this shit from a more informed perspective. Right now I'm speaking truly kind of philosophically. But once the federal government starts being rolled back, then we need to start working at the state level to roll back fucking state legislation, the state government, dude. Fucking governor. Like one dude to rule the whole state. Fuck all that shit. We got it by ourselves. We got the internet, fucking blockchain. We got this shit. We don't need fucking government in its form. We need some very limited government. The Constitution. Go back to the fucking Constitution. Anyway, my UFC viewing, I am on, like I said, UFC 313, March 8th. Alex Pereira vs. Magomed Ankalaev, co-main event, Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev. It's supposed to be Justin Gaethje versus Dan Hooker, but Dan Hooker broke his hand. How much fucking time do I have, or battery do I have left on this thing? Let me check. Oh, battery's getting low. So wrap this shit up. Man, I hope all this shit recorded. So that's where I'm at with UFC. As far as NFL is concerned, I'm like right at the start of free agents is about to start in the NFL. I know for the Seahawks, Geno Smith got traded, DK Metcalf got traded, Sam Darnold got signed. I haven't dove into the podcast and all this shit yet, but I just kind of seen these like headlines. So Seahawks, baby. Lord Saver head coach Mike McDonald making huge fucking moves. He's a ballsy motherfucker. He is the man. Seahawks going to the Super Bowl very, very soon. I will be there. Fuck. I may be living in fucking Portland. I might be going to a lot of Seahawks games. So I'm going to check out UFC 313 while I'm up here in Paso Robles. headed to Portland, at least for the short term. We'll see what happens. To the lady out there that I'm currently seeing, we'll figure this shit out. To everyone out there, you're gonna figure your shit out. No one, you don't need anyone to figure your shit out for you. You can figure your shit out, I fucking promise, especially in this country and in the Western world. We don't need this fucking government, man. The institutions are collapsing. Buy fucking Bitcoin. I believe the internet, I think shit's gonna collapse, but I don't think like society's gonna collapse around us. Like we're gonna be living like fucking cavemen and like going back to bartering with fucking like using seashells as currency and shit. I think everything we know is there's gonna be some short-term disruptions, especially in the market and, you know, probably, you know, the advent of technology, emergence of AI. Like there's gonna be some major readjustment here, and like modern life, man, I haven't got into the fucking aliens. I have not even gotten to the aliens. I'm gonna get into the fucking aliens, man. I have so many thoughts on the aliens. Anyway, there's gonna be a lot of adjustments to modern life, but it's all heading in the direction of progress. So buy your fucking Bitcoin, because we're still gonna have electricity and the internet unless you get hit by a fucking asteroid. Doesn't matter if the government if the federal government could disappear tomorrow and you would not notice it that much. We'd still have the internet. We'd buy your fucking Bitcoin, y'all. My heart's not like super long on the dollar, US dollar. I'm more optimistic long term about Bitcoin than I am the US dollar, if I'm being honest, honestly. So, honestly. Yeah. Live long and prosper, human beings. I love you all. We're gonna do it. We're all Earthlings. We're all here on planet Earth. And like, spoiler, I'll get more into this later, I think the aliens are us too. I think the aliens might just be like us from the future, or something like that. I think the aliens are us. Pretty sure. Maybe not. But everyone's cool, man. Everyone be cool. Love each other. It's all gonna work out. Everything's gonna be cool. Do jiu-jitsu. Smoke weed and do mushrooms. Peace!